Oh, nice. Lovely.
The Twits. It's always a special time when animation gets a chance to adapt the stories of Roald Dahl. It's a rare occasion, but when they do, they leave a unique mark to audiences and create some of the most memorable movies like Fantastic Mr. Fox and James and the Giant Peach. With The Twits, however, it took a long time before it even got the chance to have its own film. There was an attempt in 2003 where John Cleese and Kirk D'Amico were set to write the script for Vanguard Animation, but that ultimately went nowhere, and D'Amico went on to instead co-direct a scrapped Aardman feature that got into the hands of DreamWorks, which then became The Croods. It wasn't until almost 2 decades after that first attempt when Netflix acquired the works of Roald Dahl and was ready to create a new generation of film adaptations, with the first animated one being The Twits, along with bringing in Disney writer Phil Johnston to direct, write, and produce. While it was weird how Netflix did next to nothing to market this movie, like how it didn't put out the trailer until less than 2 weeks prior to the film's release, I did prepare myself to get familiar with what The Twits is all about. Even read the whole book for this review. I mean, it's a small children's novel. It doesn't take long to do that kind of research. But I will say that I really enjoyed this book, and I find it to be a good example of Dahl's signature whimsy and humor. Especially with the Twits themselves being his funniest villains thanks to how over the top they can get with their nasty nature. And as gross as they are in literature, their unconventional lifestyle provides a lot of potential to make an enjoyable animated feature. So there is a chance that this movie can be a lot of fun if handled well. So now that it's time to cook up this bird pie, is there some charm to be found in that ugly exterior? Or is this movie as disgusting as the title couple? Let's find out. The story. When it comes to adapting a children's book into a feature, especially for an animated movie, there is generally 2 directions that it could go. It could either take the familiar story and greatly expand upon it so that it could be told in feature length, or just take pieces of the book in order to create an entirely new narrative. The Twits decided to go with the latter, where instead of having it be about the Mugglewumps and the birds getting revenge on the evil couple, the movie's protagonists are sweet little children from the orphanage, as they have to keep the Mugglewumps safe and fight back against the Twits who are trying to gain power in the town of Triprot and open their crackpot amusement park, Twitlandia.
I'm gonna go out there and follow clues and find whoever put the meat in that water tower. And I am going to bring those jerks to justice.
I understand that trying to turn a popular children's novel into a movie with a different story comes with its own set of challenges. There should be a careful balance between doing its own thing well and staying true to the spirit of the source material. When it comes to the Twits, it honestly shows that it has difficulties with doing one of these things and prioritizes in trying to get that right. And that's capturing the feel of a Roald Dahl story. Of course, the film wants to do much more than to make it about the Twits and the Mugglewumps. But the problem is that it is unsure how to incorporate its new elements in a way that makes it feel like they could be from a storybook. It's as if the movie's driving force is to continuously ask itself what would Roald Dahl do, yet it's always unsure how to answer that.
The heck?
Because of its own uncertainty, it makes the movie feel completely unfocused, always trying different ideas to see what can capture that certain tone, and never committing to anything where their purpose in the film can end up being questionable. From occasionally cutting to these 2 bugs who are mother and son in Mr. Twit's beard and explain the plot in a very meta way by presenting it as a bedtime story,
You're the one who keeps telling me you want your bedtime stories to be more emotionally complex.
to incorporating musical numbers for that extra whimsy. Yet I don't think I could count this as a musical movie because, again, it never commits to that. They sing one song at the beginning, then throw in 2 additional numbers more than halfway into the film, and that's it. Not to mention that, while they're not bad and can be cute in their own right, they can also be pretty forgettable.
We are not like everyone else. There's nobody here just like you and me. Oh, the problem is you. It's you.
In dreams you are safe. In dreams you are free.
But the biggest consequence to its pursuit is that it leaves the movie's story to feel sidelined. It doesn't have confidence in what it's doing, resulting in the feature itself to feel weak and doesn't provide much to make the experience engaging. Sure, there are a few things like the Twits themselves that can be effective because the book already established what works about them, but when it comes to the parts exclusively made for the picture, their concepts feel like low-hanging fruits that lack the genuine approach of making the viewer connect with the film. I mean, of course you'll make the kids sympathetic and sad when you have them in
The orphanage.
And of course the Mugglewumps will feel extra special when you give them magical powers. Are those components necessary or help enhance the feature? Honestly, no. It relies on novelties instead of properly building its characters as a cheap attempt to get an emotion out of the audience. Not to mention that most of the humor is weak, where the comedy aspect outside of the Twits themselves always fall flat. Again, it wants to try a variety of styles and see what works, but rarely does it do anything that could be even close to funny. Seriously, it's as if the movie was written and directed by Mr. Napkin, where his insecurity took over the production. Wait, Mr. Napkin was actually voiced by Phil Johnston? Suddenly it all makes perfect sense now.
You know, my mom always told me I was an ungrateful child, and our family's biggest disappointment.
Okay, I know that I've been pretty hard on the feature so far, and while I do think that its flaws are unavoidably prominent, there are some things that it does right. Even when it comes to getting that Roald Dahl tone, most of its attempts are misses, but there is one crucial component that it did well, and that is the heart. The best substance out of the feature is that it contains a message about love and family, highlighting how family is about being there for those you care about than to be related by blood, and that when you're in a world filled with stupid adults who are driven by hate, the best way to counter it is to provide love and empathy. Even though I never cared much about Bisha as a character, I was surprised to find myself invested in the more heartfelt moments as she discovers who her family actually is. At the very least, it does provide the movie with a feel-good mood so that you can walk out of the feature without guessing that you may have lost all that time for nothing.
The way I see it, family isn't just who you're related to, it's who you care about. And who cares about you?
Is the movie a complete lost cause? Personally, I don't think so. The heart is strong enough to salvage whatever it can to provide some nice moments. However, I wouldn't say that it's enough to save the script from sinking due to losing its sense of direction. It tries so hard to make its own Roald Dahl story with the Twits that the plot itself doesn't stand well on its own. Especially when its lack of confidence gives me a lack of trust in its ability to tell a narrative. It wants to be Roald Dahl so badly that it forgot to be a good story first. The animation. This may sound weird, but this would have been a great opportunity to make some ugly animation. Considering that this stars Roald Dahl's most disgusting couple, it would have worked to have the style reflect their personality and have the feature look playfully nasty where it could visually have fun with being gross and unappealing. The reason why I bring this up is because I feel like the movie was close to doing that, but it ultimately held itself back to keep it looking mostly like another typical CG animated film.
If you people had only supported Twitlandia, then everyone in this stupid town would have had all the dreams come true.
The element where it's the most noticeable that it tried to have its own style is with the designs. Rather it be from the Twits themselves, the orphans, or the town of Triprot, it has this unattractive aesthetic that matches the tone of the Twits, where it lacks a lot of symmetry, the color palette is muddy and mismatched, and the entire production design looks disorganized and hastily put together. Again, it may seem like I'm bashing this movie, but it's a rare case where ugly can be beautiful, and it can visually represent what the original novel is all about. In a way, it reminds me a bit of what was done in movies like Paranorman or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, where the animation embraces imperfections and ugliness to enhance what this movie is about.
Only thing that'll get you is a frolic about in the bouncy pit.
But like I said, it was close to getting into that direction, but I feel like it didn't fully go all in. Does that mean that the animation is actually bad? Not at all. As is, it looks fine, and it is well done for what it accomplished, but there is a lot of it that feels plain and not as visually striking as it could be to make an impact. And it's not like it didn't have the budget or the skills to do that. In fact, the animation is from Jellyfish Pictures, whom earlier in the year also did visuals for DreamWorks' Dogman. Maybe it's just me, but I just find it to be a missed opportunity where they could have treated the Twits the same way they did Dogman. Not to mention that it also sucks that the studio shut down not long after the DreamWorks film, but that's a different story.
Oh no! What happened? How?
However, I could accept if what I stated was more of a nitpick than a full-on criticism. Unlike the story, the animation did a lot more that is right than wrong. First off, the one exception to the designs are the Loompa Land animals like the Toad and the Mugglewumps, who are more symmetrical and have vibrant colors, along with more use of effects thanks to their magical powers. I'll also give credit to the character animation, where the animals and the Twits can be seen as very playful, especially to bring out their personalities and show the contrast of how they treat others, as the Mugglewumps can be gentle, subtle, and lovingly acrobatic, while the duo can be bombastic, rude, and go out of their way to display their love for being mean. And the bigger their pranks and horrible acts are, the more amusing they get, like the hot dog meat incident.
I promise to always be fun.
But the biggest visual highlight of the picture for me is what the Twits were able to build with their home and Twitlandia. It's not just the fact that they look hastily built to the point of looking dangerous and unprofessional, but it's also how they got very creative in doing so. Twitlandia has all these goofy rides where they're ready to fall apart and are themed to the couple's nastiness. Sure, we don't fully see them in action, but they show how the Twits are not afraid to get their hands dirty in order to make their dreams come true.
Fun and excitement had a baby, and they called it Twitlandia.
As for their home, it may look like a mess, but they made it in a unique way where you have to expect the unexpected with weird and unsettling rooms like the one that is filled with taxidermy, and even some mechanical marvels that could take the kids and the audience for a ride like the bed that comes to the Twits.
We're fine, Bubs. We're fine. We're okay.
I'll admit that there is a part of me that wishes it could have done more. There was a great idea for a unique looking picture, but I guess displaying a stronger style is not what the movie considers important. Still though, what we ended up getting is fine. The characters are fun with how they move and dance, the over-the-top scenarios like the hot dog meat flooding can be enjoyable, and there is a good amount of creativity put into it like the places that the Twits built. The animation won't be the kind that can amaze you, but by the movie's own standards, it is among the things that it can get right. The characters. Since the movie made its own update to the book, this is no longer just about the Twits and the Mugglewumps. Now there is a whole cast of characters that the title to confront and supply more material for them to present their gross nature. However, more often than not, the movie spends time on its newer characters than to see how it adapts the familiar ones to streaming. To start this off, we might as well head straight into The Orphanage and meet Bisha and Bubsy. Honestly, it's hard to really say what kind of personalities that they have, since they are dependent on the tropes that are meant to have pity on these children because they are from There's Bisha, who is the older kid who looks after her peers and hopes to one day reunite with her biological parents, while Bubsy tags along with her and generally acts cute, especially after losing his chance of actually getting adopted.
I'm never gonna get adopted, Beesh.
Yes, you are. You just have to have hope.
When you take away the orphan aspect, there is next to nothing that can make them memorable or have them stand out to define who they are as a person. At best, I could give it to Bisha that she does carry the movie's heart with learning about how to counter hate with empathy and what it means to be part of a family. That does help to give her more value and sell the message, but it does feel disappointing that a film adaptation of the Twits got hijacked by a couple of bland kids.
What are we gonna do about the spore mugglums?
We're gonna free them tonight when the Twits get arrested.
What do you mean?
Alongside them, to go against the couple, are the animals of Lupaland. And I'm only guessing here, but based on where they're from, I got a sneaking suspicion that Netflix might be planning a Roald Dahl cinematic universe.
Oh, I'm from Lupaland. I came here with my friends, the Mugglewumps.
Anyways, with the Mugglewumps, they're the magical MacGuffins that are the source that runs Twitlandia. Outside of that, however, their personalities don't go further than to be the loving family who looks out for the orphans and make the more fantastical jokes like the father throwing up a hairball version of the little snowballs from Frozen.
My daddy bursts some stress balls sometimes.
And instead of having the roly-poly bird, there is this toad who speaks backwards, unless given a mirror, who is there to give advice to Bisha.
Hold on a minute. If you don't have a family, what do you call Bubsy? Or the Mugglewumps? Or me?
As for the people of Triprot, one of the movie's most common running gags is how the adults are dumber than the kids, with how they're more likely to believe in anything when they're desperate. It's meant to serve as a bonus political commentary to explain how even the most crooked politicians can win over people by telling them obvious lies, but the movie's comedy isn't strong enough to present that as clever, and it just piles on to the amount of misses that it makes.
You're just too young to understand that the Twits are going to make all of our dreams come true! Oh, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Twit!
The one who is kind of an exception is Mr. Napkin, the head of the orphanage with some serious insecurity issues. I say kind of because he's still dumber than the children are with his own set of bad jokes, but for different reasons.
Are you trying to be funny?
No, I doubt it. My mom always told me I was a uniquely humorless child.
And then you have the Twits themselves, who are easily the film's best characters. It does help when the book already established who they are, and the film does use that to help explore more possibilities to express their vile attitude. The one significant change they did is, instead of bird pies keeping them together, it's their dream of opening Twitlandia. Other than that, they're the same horrible couple who regularly pulls pranks on each other and enjoy expressing their grossness to one another. But on top of behaving like the typical Twitter users who love to be mean and cause senseless outrage, along with getting violently aggressive at the sight of a modern Disney movie, they also provide the feature's best comedy and be what feels the most like the books. A big part that makes the novel great to read is how it plays up the grossness and the ugliness for laughs. And whenever the two does have time to be on screen, they make the most to have fun with their wicked and disgusting traits. They can be uncommon, but the movie is at its best when we see the Twits do what they do best. I won't say that I didn't have fun with some of these characters. The movie is able to adapt the Twits themselves well, but with everyone else, there's very little that I got from them. They have next to no personality and just have a role to provide for either the story or the comedy. And since both are among the film's weaker assets, their roles don't have much value. And while the voice acting is decent, there's not much to note about it that could help elevate the characters to make them even slightly memorable. The way they were handled is not as horrible as the Twits, but they don't have much to remember by, good or bad. I can see how this could have been a great movie. Even if it wasn't a straightforward adaptation of the book, there was a chance that this could have been as delightful as that, as it would play a lot with the nastiness of the Twits, both with its plot and visuals, in order to deliver a movie with that true spirit of Roald Dahl's legacy. This could have been another great hit for Netflix if the movie had more confidence in itself to stick to a specific direction. The Twits is not as terrible as the title duo's attitude, but its attempt of trying to emulate the Roald Dahl style over doing its own thing does take it away from being a solid animated feature. I'll give it that there are some elements that saves it from being considered a bad movie, like the animation is pretty good, it has a nice message about love and family that makes it heartfelt, and the Twits themselves are enjoyable. The only problem is that it's so obsessed with trying to emulate the Roald Dahl style that it leaves the picture itself to feel forgettably dull by leaving the story, the comedy, the songs, and the rest of the characters to be weak and incapable of making this fully engaging. Sure, this isn't unwatchable, since it is harmless enough for children to check out, but I can't imagine this being more than something that's for the sake of background noise or a kid distractor. In terms of enjoying a movie in general, I recommend finding something else because there are a lot better and more memorable options than this. By the way, if you enjoyed this review, then give this a like and come subscribe to my channel. You can also join my Patreon to support what I do and get some scrum-diddly-umptious rewards like watching my videos early and uncut. You won't be getting the shrinks if you watch this movie, but with how mild this can be, your memory of experiencing this afterwards will most likely shrink quickly into nothingness.
I knew it would end like this. This is your fault. It's your fault, you dung beetle.